Hey, this is Jim. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. Got another great episode for you today with a great guest, Mr. Joel Byer. He is this close to going full time with his online business. He's a coaching student of ours. He went through the proven Amazon course and he's built something pretty special. He's got a lot of great tips and very specific strategies that he shares with us today towards the end of his interview. We kind of dive off on some pretty interesting topics, including one of my favorites is right towards the end where we talk about, am I building an asset? If I go down this road of building a replens business, this is another replens success story. And if you don't know what a replen is, we'll stick some resources in the show notes so you can get in there and find that out. But basically, it's selling retail items and online arbitrage items that you find, everyday items that you can sell at a nice markup on a repeat basis. Am I building a real business that I can actually sell someday to someone? And the answer is yes. And we talk about why that is and how you can creatively do just that. But we also dive off into many other exciting topics, everything from where he finds his products, some of the exciting products that he first sold when he got started, some of the missteps that he took. He talks about how he started to dive into private label a little too soon, and our coaching team reeled him back into some very profitable territory instead, as he's getting his feet under him with the model that was already working so well. So he's built an incredible business. He's got a very healthy six-figure business heading up to be much bigger than that, in my opinion. And he's going to share his journey and share his story. So thanks for hanging out with us today. I think you're going to enjoy hanging out with Joel and I. And as always, we're grateful for some of your time as you hang out on the Silent Sales Machine Radio podcast. One little favor, if I could ask it of you, please leave us a good review wherever you're watching or listening. We'd love that. And if you could go to silentjim.com and jump into our Facebook group. If you're not a member in there yet, it's completely free. I think you're going to love it. 63,000 of us hanging in there every day, talking about how to build our businesses, how to make Amazon an incredible income opportunity for you and your family. It's a free resource for you. So if you're not in there, come check it out. And when you get in there, one little tip, scroll through hundreds of recent success stories by looking for the topic tag at the top of the page. There's a little topic tag. It says topics. Click it and look for the success stories. Hundreds and hundreds of recent inspirational success stories from very, very real people, just like Joel, who you're about to meet. So let's get Joel on the line now and enjoy today's episode. We'll talk to you soon. So Joel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Great to have you, man. So I just want to jump right into your story. Let's start at the beginning, wherever you want to go.
Sure. Okay. So it's funny. I was just talking to my parents this last week, and they reminded me that probably since junior high, I've been interested in running my own business. And they said, it's kind of funny. I thought you let go of that. I said, no, it's always been there under the surface. And so, here I have this opportunity and I'm loving it. And so in high school, I sold candy out of lockers. College, I had a franchise for a painting company. Shortly after school, I opened up a sales organization as a 1099 contractor and did pretty well there, but kind of burned me out a little bit. And the money was never really there. I had good sales numbers, but I don't know if I just wasn't managing my money very well. So, I took a position in banking and had a degree in management. And so that helped to leverage getting into a spot, and then use my W-2 income to help qualify for some lending and purchase some real estate. And so I thought I was doing great, started with zero. And after a couple of years had 50 plus units of different rental real estate. And the problem was everything was negative cash flow, had deferred maintenance on it. Yeah. And I did my numbers based on making the loan payment to the bank and didn't take any of this other stuff, management fees, other types of maintenance issues. Yeah.
Wow. 50 units is going in deep. That's going in pretty deep, pretty fast.
Yeah. For any money I was missing, I was trying to make it up in volume, I guess. So
yeah, that only worked for so long, right?
Yeah. So
it sounds a bit like the Dave Ramsey story. Did you have any disaster moments with all of that?
I did. Yeah, it was kind of a rough time. But basically at the end of that, I realized I needed more information before making a real move into any kind of a business venture. And so I started attending some conferences and getting to know real estate a lot better because I wanted to buy real estate. But, I'd read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and some of the Robert Kiyosaki books. And one thing that I missed, I guess, was that first you need to build your business and then use that money to invest. And I tried to go straight for investing. And so I went and I worked in mortgage, helped me to qualify for some lending and understand how lending and real estate worked. But I eventually wanted to move into business banking and commercial lending because I felt like, hey, there's going to be bigger deals there. And so I went into business banking, and now I was around all these entrepreneurs, and that it started coming back. Like, hey, I really want to start something. And I remember 2 or 3 meetings with clients right at the beginning. They were with people in their 20s who were running e-commerce businesses and making well into 6 figures. One was a married couple who was importing a beauty product from Europe. The other was a group of 5 guys that were renting a super high-end house in a really nice area of Denver. And it was kind of like an incubator where they all had their own little e-commerce businesses, right. But it was like a mastermind, and they were living together and all single. And one guy had just sold his business for $750,000. He took $350,000 in cash, and then $375 in cash, $375 paid out over time. And I thought, that's amazing. Like he built an asset in 2 or 3 years and sold that thing, and he can go out and do that again. And so it really piqued my interest. And I thought, I need to pay attention to this. So the next time I heard about e-commerce, it was through this video series. And I could kind of tell this was a funnel and it's going to end in a big sale. Right. And I didn't really want to end up there.
Sure.
But I was listening to Rabbi Daniel Lapin podcast. Really? I've been put on to him by a couple other people. Yeah. David Barton through Wall Builders, and then Dave Ramsey had both mentioned him. Yeah. So I just looked him up.
Right.
And I was listening to him, and he was talking about when he had done the Proven conference, he was the keynote speaker, and he posted that, and it was in like October, I think, of 2019.
Yeah. It had been right after our event. I can't tell you, he didn't tell me that he was planning to give us such a huge plug. If you've listened to his podcast for a while, he doesn't plug anything ever, unless it's a paid advertiser and he reads his little 15-second spot, He talked about us in our conference for 10 minutes after the conference. I got to tell you, I was thrilled because
it was amazing.
He's a great guy. I actually have his book. I didn't know you were going to even bring it up, but this is how close to my desk his book is at all time. I don't know if just to show off, there's my little autograph note from him right there. Yeah.
Nice.
That's a great one too.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
They've got some
stuff
out there.
Read that one.
Check out too. There's a little plug for Daniel Lapin, Lapin. Great podcast, great resources for sure.
Absolutely.
So that's how you heard of us, huh? Through Lapin's show. That's phenomenal.
It is. He said something like, if you have enough time to watch TV in the evenings, maybe you should put that time to use. And I was thinking, wow, okay, I guess I could start something in the evenings. And my wife looks back on that time and she's like, curses and swears, we didn't even have time to watch TV. And you started this. But yeah, it's been great. That was October of 19. I heard that. November was the first month paying for the Amazon account. Didn't make any sales that month. December, I made like $351 in sales. And that came from finding stuff around my house and, visiting a couple thrift stores.
Yeah. Starting to play.
And
sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so then after making my first couple sales, I just kind of kept ramping it up. January, I crossed over 5,000. And then April, FBA shut down because of COVID. And so May ended up with most of my April plus May sales, and I crossed the $10,000 mark. And then I think September I was over 20, and then November almost 40, December almost 50, and then January was actually better than December. January, I think I came in at 50, almost 54,000 in sales.
Wow. And that brings us up to date.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty quick ramp up. So you're working full time at a real
yes,
job kind of thing? Yeah. Because just before we jumped on this call, you had a phone call with work. Like, hey, I'll have to get back.
I did.
It's like, so you're still like doing it. You're still hitting it. Are you working from home for that gig?
Yes. So since March, I've been at home, and every once in a while I need to go to an appointment or a meeting. But most of the time I'm at home. And
Gotcha.
so it's really given me a taste of what it would be like to work from home. And I kind of
Sure.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of the world is kind of discovering, well, for my family, one of my favorite memes about this whole thing was like, we're kind of discovering that our lifestyle is called quarantine. Interesting. Because we homeschool, we work from home. We go
Yeah.
out when everyone else is at home, and we stay home when everyone else is out. We avoid rush hour. We avoid Saturdays. It's like no
Right.
need to go where the crowds are. No need to go where the lines are. We go when there's no crowds and no lines. And so we kind of live a quarantine lifestyle well before COVID. I think a lot of families are being
That's
exposed to
excellent.
that now. Like, having the kids under the same roof and mom and dad home, this isn't all that bad. There's some good things happening here. So, getting a little taste of that. Do you guys have kids?
We do. We have four. My oldest is turning 12 in May. Then we have a 10-year-old, and then a 6-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Beautiful, man. Blessed guy. That's awesome. And so, does your wife work a job or with you in the business, the Amazon business? What's her role?
I'm lucky if she decides to help me in an evening. She is amazing at packing boxes,
Yeah.
and yeah. But yes, it's definitely mine. Oh, and she does help me with some of the accounting. She's been, bringing into my accounting software and reconciling some items, which is great.
Beautiful.
But no, she
Well, being a
this
mom of
last year
four is a
decided to
full-time
do.
gig. I mean,
It is.
my wife now, our kids are getting a little older now, so she's starting to get a little bit of free time. But uh, she really didn't do a whole lot with, she's a brilliant speaker. She'll speak at our events, for example, but she doesn't really do a whole lot with the business. She speaks more about the family dynamics, which is a very necessary component of this. It's a new thing for a lot of families to be under the same roof. I'm sure you guys went through a little bit of this is strange. What's dad's role during the day when normally he's gone and mom's in charge of everything? How do we blend this all? Um, but so it's always interesting to me to hear how families are navigating that.
She's really liked having me home. I can kind of be available while the baby's sleeping and the kids are doing some homework, because we just started homeschooling this year. And then she can run to the store and not have anybody in tow, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm just such a huge fan of homeschooling and entrepreneurship. Your kids are going to benefit. I don't know how difficult of a decision it was for you guys, but your kids are going to benefit in some tremendous ways. Seeing a business under the roof and having their mom as their primary teacher with dad right there present and helping. Oh my goodness, it's just that's really hard to beat in any kind of other institutionalized system, and that's really hard to beat.
I agree.
Kudos for that.
Yeah.
Man. That's beautiful. Well, I want to dig into
you.
your business a little bit, man. Let's hear. You've given us some numbers. That's awesome. Let's hear some ROI. Let's what's behind those numbers a little bit, and how are you finding this stuff to sell? What are you selling? What system are you following? That sort of thing, because I truly don't know yet at this point.
Sure. So in 2020, my sales for the year were roughly 185, and that's according to my accounting books anyway.
Right.
Amazon had it a little higher. And then my bottom line number on that was 67,000. And so it's about a 36% margin.
Mm-hmm.
And generally when I'm sourcing stuff, it's about a 40% ROI or better. But I'm finding that a lot of the stuff that I source is much better than a 40% ROI. It's just that's kind of where I have it set, and that's my lowest threshold.
Right. And we kind of it sounds like you're doing some really replens model to me based on those numbers that you're sharing. And we do kind of set like especially for a new person, you want to be making $2 or $3 minimum and 40% ROI minimum, and that stuff is everywhere. And over time, you'll raise your standards and you'll come in around the 100% ROI average after you've been doing this a while. That's where a lot of people kind of wind up. Put $1 in, get $2 out, kind of thing. But yeah, that's awesome. So well done. And especially for a guy who's working full time, how many hours do you put in to achieve those numbers? And you really kind of started halfway through the year. It sounds like you kind of ramped up. So 2020 was like a 7 month thing for you where you really kind of focused in, right?
Mm-hmm. It was. So the beginning of 2020, I was doing everything, and packing boxes was really slowing me down. But I wanted the business to grow, and I didn't to put any money in myself. And so the business grew to a point where I could afford accounting, because I know as a banker, how important it is to have accounting records. And I wanted to have that from the beginning. So that was the first large expense I had, which was maybe $1,400, $1,500. Mm-hmm. And then my next big expense was coaching that the business paid for. So even after those expenses, my numbers are reflective of that. Okay. The coaching was interesting.
Yeah. Talk us through that. I didn't realize you were a coaching student. I'll read the bio on students, but from time to time, my day's going crazy and I just jump into these interviews. So I don't even know what was in your bio. I maybe reviewed it a few weeks ago when it came across my desk, but I didn't realize you were a coaching student. Yeah. Talk us through that. You said interesting experience share.
Yeah. So I kind of thought, hey, retail's at the bottom and then wholesale and then private label. And I don't really want to start at the bottom. I just want to jump right into it. So I wanted somebody that could help me with wholesale and private label right from the beginning. And I didn't understand that I've started something and it would be really beneficial to have somebody help me improve what I've already started. When I met with my wholesale coach, I realized that business model is so much different than what I was doing. And it felt like I'm already so busy. How am I going to find time to do this other stuff too?
Right.
And so I actually, after the first meeting, I said, that's really great. I can see how it would be beneficial. You do the work and, maybe there's a long-term benefit that's probably even more scalable than what I'm doing now. But I need to focus on what I'm doing now and just kind of lock this in, make sure that it's working, and then move on in the future. So after that first meeting, I asked for a different coach. And I was at that point assigned to Larry and Soup, and they're great. They helped me to get systems set in place, and I hired somebody in September as a contractor. Can't say hired. He's been working with me and packing and shipping. That really helped bump everything up. Plus the repricer helped me improve. We put an inventory lab, which helped with the pack ship process. And then I was having a hard time figuring out what to buy. And so we got a system for that. And so just all those systems, initially, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on those because I felt like, hey, that's my money. But right. if I'm going to think about hiring somebody, it's less expensive and probably software will do as good or better of a job than a human will. Why not just bring on that software and then hire where I can't automate? And so the Larry and Sue got me to see that, which is really good.
Fantastic. I love that, there was a bit of a fork in the road here and we kind of cruised through it, but you have some good business instincts built into you when you noticed a shiny opportunity and you were capable of pursuing it, but you saw where that was going to detract you from the momentum you already had. There's a huge lesson in that. I can't tell you the number of times I've had sessions with people who are 6 months down the road of having made the wrong decision at that point. And they're saying things like, well, this was all working so great, but then I kind of shifted direction and I started doing something else instead, and it's not working so well. Like, why'd you stop doing what was working? Why didn't you ramp that up and systemize it? Like, well, I probably should have done that.
Exactly.
As entrepreneurs, we're so easily distracted. And I think you've had enough of a front row seat with different entrepreneurs, kind of know the winners are the people that stick with it and see it through and systemize and build something, that they get through that uncomfortable, maybe even that boring phase of like, I'm just not as interested anymore. You know what? No one cares if you're interested or not. It's working. Systemize it, build it. Right. So kudos to you for that. And I think there's a good lesson there for a lot of people. And I love that you weren't lured into the private label shiny object syndrome that so many people pursue, because it really is, at the stage you were at, it would have been a big gamble. And you're probably better positioned now to start thinking down that road, the next several months. But yeah, great job, man. That was a brilliant decision on your part. And I love that coaching came through, because at first when you said coaching was interesting, I was thinking, this may not be so good of a story, but it sounds like it turned out great, as it did. Almost always does, because we have such great coaches on our team, and Larry and Sue are certainly tremendous coaches as well. But so talk more about the coaching. what kind of things did you learn that you wouldn't have picked up on your own? Like you saw it as an investment, you put the money in. Did you get a return on it? Let's dig into that a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. It accelerated me because I might have gotten to the point where I did eventually, but just having Larry say, if you're willing to hire somebody, why don't you just pay for the software? Which was a great, I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. If I would have stopped and thought about it, I might have come up with that on my own. But just having somebody tell me that in conversation, it just made me do it sooner. And I asked, how would you hire somebody? And the pointers that they gave me helped me find the right person. And it might have been what I would have done anyway, but it just kind of had somebody there that was fleshing these things out with me, that had really good ideas, that if I was asking maybe a point of clarification, it's right there and available, rather than having to suffer through and try to figure it out. And, with what I've done in the past, I've done enough suffering through and trying to figure it out. I just want to talk to somebody and spend the money up front. And that way it'll save and I'll make more in the long run.
Yeah. Some people are resistant to the idea of getting a coach, someone that's a little further down the road, or someone that can help them. Well, here's 3 options you have, and here's the one that makes no sense to me. Why aren't you doing it? Someone that's asking you those kinds of questions and helping you guide your ship. And you use the word hire again, by the way. So for the record, these are contract employees, not hires, right? Contract workers.
They are. Although I am talking to my accountant about doing some payroll for one of the guys. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, at some point it makes sense to just go ahead and bring them on board. And for example, in my organization, any given month, there's easily over 100 people that are working on a project with me in some fashion. And typically I just call them all partners. Well, I'm learning that legally that's not the best idea. So I don't know what to call these people, but they're good friends and we're building something awesome together. Okay. Accountants and everyone else. I don't know what to call these people, but they're great friends. We're building something special together. But I only have 2 employees. Everyone else is contract or pay per performance, that kind of thing. Right.
Right.
So, learning the terminology, but it's just beautiful what you can do with these virtual organizations now, the way you can kind of collaborate and just build something awesome together. So the one person that you do have working on contract for you, they do your packing. Do they do anything else for you? Are they finding new products for you, or is it pretty much just the packer?
There was a day where I didn't have enough packing work, and I asked this gentleman to sit down at a computer and find some things. And he was able to do it. But at the end of the day, I said, hey, so what do you think about this? Is this something you might want to do? And he said, no, I'd rather just pack. Yeah. And so it's funny. I found some items that I'm still buying that he worked on that day. And there's somebody else that has been doing my shopping for me. And I showed her how to find these items as well. She likes it. And I'm paying her $2 per item that she finds that I agree, this looks like a good one to try. So before I've even purchased it or made any money on it, I'm giving her $2 because the graph looks good, the rank looks good. I think this is something we'll be able to buy. There's not too many sellers on it. And then we'll test it. And then I'll give her a commission based on what's sold at the end of each month. So then she has to go through my seller account. So I've given her delegated access. She can go through and see what's sold off of her list and then calculate that commission using RevSeller.
That's beautiful. I love that you spelled out how you do that. So you're kind of giving her the monkey to use a parenting analogy. I'm not taking that monkey back. That's your monkey. Report accurate numbers to me and tell me how much I owe you, and I'll go through and validate them. But yeah, you do the work. Tell me what I owe you.
Exactly.
That's a beautiful model. So how many has she found for you, and what's the average check you're sending out to her right now?
The check isn't too big yet because December was the first month that we paid anything out. And I think it was like $15 to $20. And it's 10%. So I'm thinking maybe I need to bump that up, and actually talked to her about that. And she said, hey, I really love doing this, but I have this other opportunity coming up. And so we'll see how long this goes. But I'm thinking in the future, I'll probably do $2 per product like I have been, but maybe a 20% commission on profits, not on gross sales, but on profits.
So whatever
And
you're getting, basically from Amazon for those products, you're going to give her 20% of that. Yeah.
exactly.
Sounds like a good arrangement. I'm excited to hear how that goes. There's all kinds of creative ways you can do this, for sure.
Yeah.
You can even hire virtual assistants to do some of these things. And I found a great VA in about 15 minutes last night for a problem I've been scratching my head over for several weeks. I'm like, I'm just going to see if someone out there got into a conversation on one of these, find a virtual assistant websites, and bam, there they were from Pakistan, solving my problems. So there's all kinds of creative ways that you can grow if you're willing to spend the money, expand your team without having to hire people, make them contract workers. Are you familiar?
So you asked me how many she's found.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm curious.
So I just looked at the list. It has 69, 68, because of the heading, different products on here that she's found. And I have probably thrown out 15% of them.
Sure.
So I bet, 50 products or so. She's probably
still
found
ramping it up. Those are products you probably never would have found. You taught her how to do the research. And that's a great hire, or that's a great team member, we should say. Bring someone on that can find new revenue. That's one of, that's money well spent because they're paying for themselves. And so, that's brilliant. So what else do you want to tell me about your story? Fill in any gaps that we've left out. Is there anything else that maybe some key decision points in there? You've made it clear you're doing the replens model. Maybe tell us, what course how long did it take you to go through the course? What was that like? Anything there?
Sure. So when I got PAC, it was kind of funny. I listened to the Rabbi podcast, and then I thought, I really want to see this and, what the other speakers said at this conference. So I went on and tried to buy the conference package, and it was, I don't know, $60 or something like that. And then I got upsold the PAC conference, or the PAC Proven Amazon course. And for the price that I was quoted, I thought I'd be silly not to at least check it out. And so I put it on hold, talked to my wife. She said, yeah, go ahead. So I bought it. And the first I looked at was Amazon 101. And the thing I remember from that was, if you don't take action in the first week, it's unlikely that you're going to take action. Mm-hmm. And that made me think, yeah, you're right. I just better do it. And so I started through, and I loved how there's these little short segments, maybe 6 minutes. And then at the end, there's a little check mark. And so I was watching it with my wife, and she loves check marks. And so we both got into it, and we felt like, hey, we're accomplishing something, just checking the stuff off. Yeah. And then, as we were doing it, I was taking the little steps like setting up the account and, going around my house and scanning some things or whatever. But by the end of that course, I had everything set up and ready to go for what I needed to do. And so then I did a lot of arbitrage.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing Jimmy Smith on your podcast, and they were talking about maybe we'll fly to your house. And I thought, that sounds really interesting, but I wonder if I could just figure it out from the course. And so I bought the course, not knowing that it would be uploaded to Proven Amazon course later on, but bought it and started going through it. And I think, once it got over the $10,000 per month mark, which was about as big as I could think at the time, because I wasn't anywhere near that, I kind of stopped listening to it because there was enough actionable content where I was able to just go through and do it. And I figured I can always come back to this later, once I'm up at that level. And now I need to do the 40,000 plus, because that's really about where I'm at. And it hasn't taken that long.
Yeah.
But
I love that.
I guess to answer your question.
Yeah. Just for the listener's sake, hold on to your thought. Don't lose it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just trying to listen with the ears of maybe a new listener. Like, what are you talking about? 10,000, 40,000? The replens model that we teach in the Proven Amazon course. It's one of the modules, one of many, but it's the one that Joel and so many other new students are jumping into right now. We step you through. There's such a predictable pace to this business. It's like, here's what it feels like to go from $0 to $10,000 a month. Here's what it feels like to go from $10,000 to $40,000 a month. Here's what it feels like to get up to $100,000 a month. And there's different challenges you're going to encounter. There's going to be different things you need to do with your business, different people that you need to bring in to assist you to keep it all humming smooth. And so at the point that you hit that curriculum that was talking about how to get up to $10,000 a month, you're like, that's as big as I can imagine right now. You stopped. And that's great because it's real-time information. It's just in time instead of just in case style of education. And we do those check marks. We like that because there's a mental momentum. There's a psychological boost. It's like, all right, I'm on step 8 and I've covered some ground here. I'm doing something. And that first win, that first sale is a big deal because 1 is such a bigger number than 0, right? It's just so much bigger. And that first sale is a tremendous moment in time. But I don't want to interrupt. Where were you going? And then we'll get off on those other tangents.
Well, I think you asked how long it took me to get through it, and I haven't. I'm still not through it. In fact, I've gone back through and looked at my progress on some of the other modules in the Proven Amazon course, and I don't think I've finished any of them except for Amazon 101. Mm-hmm. And I think what happens is I get into it and I see this is really good, or this is something I can do, or I'm not even going to touch that now. Mm-hmm. And it's enough to know to move on or to go further in. And until I've mastered what I just learned, I don't really want to go on to the next thing. But it would probably be beneficial to finish a couple of these courses here in the next little bit.
Yeah. And it's not about finishing. We're kind of, one of the books that I'm writing that will be done someday, hopefully, but it's all the things I had to unlearn before I could succeed as an entrepreneur. All the things from my traditional education that I had to unlearn. And one of those certainly is like, finish the book before you get started. Learn all you can learn and then go do. No, that's not the way this course is laid out. It's laid out for you to pause and come back a few weeks from now after you've done what you just learned. Put it to work. Go make some money. And sometimes you put the course aside and go out and do what you're doing and you never come back. And that's perfectly fine because that just means you've found your groove and you're off and running. But the course does grow with you over time. Right. Always adding new modules, updating old content. So when you need it, it's there. It's like a library of just-in-time information for all things Amazon. And to my knowledge, there's exactly 0 people who have been through all the content in that course, myself included, because there's a team of about 60 of us who are contributing at any given time to keeping it up and sharp and proven and current, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, don't beat yourself up. That's for you. That's for all the listeners too. If you buy the course, it's kind of like a Netflix experience. No one has watched everything on Netflix. But imagine if Netflix was everything you'd ever need about an Amazon business. You could go off in this direction or that direction. There's about 50 ways to make money on that platform. And we teach them all. So, right. Beautiful. Well, what else from your story? Any tips for the listeners, perhaps?
Yeah. So let's see. Some things that I've learned. I just kind of made a quick list here. One is to pay attention to Amazon shipping policies. I remember we were measuring boxes with a tape measure, and if it was 25.2 inches, we would put that on our label. And that got us in trouble one time because we were shipping standard-sized items, and we were trying to send in a shipment, and Amazon says, you can't send any shipments right now. And I remember thinking, why can't I send any shipments? Did I lose my account? And as I looked through the open communications from Amazon, it was, you violated a shipping guideline. So I had to go in and do the research and found that you can't send a box larger than 25 inches on any one side if you're sending standard sized items. Now you can if you're sending large, what do they call that? Oversized or small oversized. But then I did some more research, and if you're sending something that's larger, you have to have it 1 per box. You can't say, oh, I have this big, huge item, I'm going to throw in 20 other items with it, because that could get you in trouble too. Yeah. So that was a hard lesson.
And a few cans of beans. They won't take that. Right.
No. So I never really thought to go read through all the policies that Amazon has on its website, but that was an important one.
Mm-hmm. And it's those little things that some people go, oh, I don't want to learn all that stuff. I don't want to. And it's not that complicated. The first time you stub your toe or bonk your head, you're like, okay, well, then you take the time to learn it. We're all learning. Yeah, I think the listeners to this show would be amazed at the long list of things that I just don't know yet. I go in and I'm like incompetent in our warehouse at times, and they're like, really, Jim, you've been doing this 20 years and you didn't know that you have to put a suffocation sticker on every bag? Like, That's right. I'd completely forgotten. It's like, go put stickers on all the bags, Jim. If you're going to be help around here, you got to know how this stuff works. Like all these little things. But after you've done it once, you know, and
That's
going
right.
forward. And it really isn't a lot, especially when you're considering you can get a business going when we're talking, $100,000 a month at great margins, something you're doing in your spare time. Some people don't have an appreciation, I don't think, for the low hanging fruit this opportunity represents. If you're ready to do the work, you got to be willing to do the work. But if you're going to follow the map, follow the trail, man, it's laying out there. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That's true.
Yeah.
That's been my experience.
Yeah. So what are the lessons? I love that little lesson about, box size and you don't want to play around with the whole 50-pound rule either, right? Like, 49.9, let's stay away from that 50 because if their scale's a little off, here comes the penalty, right?
Yes. That's right. Yeah. We usually don't ship anything over 45 pounds just to stay a little bit further away.
Exactly. Just to be safe.
Another thing that I picked up from Jimmy in one of his, I don't know if it was a podcast or a video, but it was check feedback and account health. He says he does it daily. Yeah. I say do it at least weekly, and then address any negative feedback issues and try to get them resolved. And I actually have a story about that. So the feedback issue, I had listed one of an item. And at the time that I put that in my inventory, it was one of the item. And then I sold a bunch of them. And then eventually whoever made that listing changed it to two of that item. And I didn't get notified. And the only time I figured it out was when I had a negative feedback saying, I thought I was supposed to get two of these.
Yeah, this is a 2-pack and I got one. Yeah, okay. I'm with you. So the customers understand a little upset.
Of course. And I thought, well, that's silly. I mean, nobody else has had this complaint and it was one the whole time. So I went and looked at it and sure enough, it had been updated. And so I put notes on her feedback that, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it had been updated. This is something I didn't do, but I'm happy to give you a full refund. And she said, well, if you just refund me half, that's okay. Well, I had already given her a full refund and she had committed to removing the feedback because I refunded her money. But then this thing stayed there. And it was like in April, I got this thing. And by July, it was still there. And it was just driving me nuts. I'm like, why is this still here? So I started private messaging. Well, first I called Amazon or got a hold of them. And they said, hey, if a case has been closed 5 days, we can't reopen it. So, okay, lesson learned. Make sure you're responding to cases. If you have any more additional information you want to talk about within a 5-day period. Secondly, they said, if you want to reach out to the customer directly, you can, and she can remove it. So I started private messaging her weekly. And it got to the point where I was like, hey, today's the day of integrity. You said, and I copied what she said, will you please do this? And then she messaged me back. Yeah, exactly. And she messaged me back and said, I would, but I don't know how. So then I found the process and gave her the link in Amazon's encyclopedia of how you do things. Sure. And she was able to get it removed. And since that day, I've had 100% feedback. And I'm vigilant about anytime like somebody says, hey, I got it, but the box was smashed. This is an FBA issue. And they'll get it taken down. So that's been a lesson that has been great.
Yeah, protect that feedback. That really helps. I don't know that there's a huge difference between a 90% and 100%. Some people say there is. You get to buy a box more often, but you want it as high as you can keep it. And we kind of live and die by those. Like, yes, another 5-star. If you're going to give me 4 stars, you might as well give me a 1-star. Come on, help me out here, people. Right? But I would encourage you, don't stress out too much. Maintaining a perfect 100%. That's a good thing, but over time, you're going to have a 95% plus anyway with as many transactions as you're doing, and stay in the 90s and you'll be fine. Kind of rule of thumb. But that is a great story of just stick with it, do what you got to do, and Amazon still does. I mean, they'll wipe out if it was their fault. If it was something other, maybe stated better, if it wasn't your fault as the seller, they'll remove it the vast majority of the time.
If you ask them to.
We have that opportunity to interact with them. I remember I always contrast Amazon now to eBay, say, 15, 18 years ago when I was first in it. And the review is what the review was. If someone wanted to change it, tough luck. It's in the system now. No one's going to change anything. It's there. It's like, oops,
Right.
I accidentally hit 1 star instead of 5. Sorry. No one can do anything about it. But now we at least have this feedback system, and Amazon's there, and they care to the degree that we want those little things taken care of. They understand there's real businesses out here depending on it. So yeah, that's a cool story. Yeah. Any other little lessons or tidbits, things you've learned along the way?
Yeah. So with my shopper, I was able to give her limited access to my Amazon account.
Yeah.
And with that, we were able to get the Amazon Seller app on her phone.
Right.
And so when she's out purchasing things for me now, if she sees something that's interesting, she can look it up using a scanner or a reverse source, typing in the words for that product. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't do product research while she's shopping, and I'm paying her for hours shopping, but she'll use that then to go back later and find new products to add into inventory. So that was something that I don't think everybody knew, because I talked to somebody in the organization and they didn't know that. But it's something you can do. If you give somebody limited access, they can get the Seller Amazon app and use it to source.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And you can teach them how to research and show them how to use Keepa, even put them through the course if you'd like, right? Get them ramped up. Sometimes people will say, well, what if you just turn them into your competitor? Well, my thought on that is, first, there's so much opportunity out there. That's fine. But next, you've got a big head start. You've got approval in categories and products and things. They're going to be way better off. We've actually got some podcast episodes coming up in the near future where people are growing their team using these exact strategies of just having people help sell on my account. You can make a pretty strong case to someone who's competent, like, hey, just sell on my account. Here's why. All these approvals, I'll take on the risk. Let's just do this as a team. I'll pay you a nice commission for it. Help me build my account. And you could have a whole team of people like what you just described who are out there, checking your account and seeing, do we already sell this? Yes or no? Like, they can answer these questions on the fly in real time, and they're out there adding revenue to your business. That's what's possible with this. So I love that you shared that. And we've got a lot of tools coming that are going to make that a little easier as well. Tools and training, such as a new coach we just brought on the team yesterday, a new coach who his entire business is run from a network of homes in his city. He doesn't have an office. Everyone works from home. Shoppers, preppers, dropping stuff off at this guy's driveway, and he preps it for us. And the supplies are delivered by the same people that shop. And it's a pretty slick system that saves you. You don't have to have a warehouse. You can have a big operation, nice, healthy 7-figure operation without any warehouse storing everything.
That's great.
So all these little ways that you can ramp up and be creative and learn from each other. Cool stuff, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else? Did we leave anything else out of your story or anything else that you wanted to share? I love you just kind of come with these little random tidbits. This is great.
A couple things. Yeah. So I've been getting a lot of product compliance requests lately. I think that's pretty common among sellers after Christmas.
For toys.
And yeah, mostly toys, things with small parts. And it's making me rethink how many of these I really want to carry, because unless you're buying from a distributor and they can actually get you the requirements that they're asking for, it's difficult to find that. And so I found that, like, if you're selling a 1,000-piece puzzle, you might not be asked, but if you're selling a 500-piece puzzle, you might be asked for these product safety requirements. And I think it has to do with the age that each person that uses this product is supposed to be before it's age appropriate.
The younger children, the infants, anything that the infants could, sold to that age demographic, you're going to have a lot more. There's a lot more policy concerns there. Just think, where are all the lawsuits?
Right. Absolutely.
Little babies putting the toy in their mouth kind of thing. So it's the age. I think what I heard was if you stay above 12 and over, don't quote me on that, but I think I was hearing, that's kind of the rumor. If you're going to sell toys, try to stay in the 12 and over. If you want to avoid these, policy compliant paperwork requests. But the worst case is like, you know what? I'll just stop selling that. Maybe you bring a few back and you sell them on eBay. The beauty of the replens model is you're never so deep into any one product that it breaks your system to hear that you can't sell that product anymore. or even that brand
Right.
product anymore. You don't go so deep into any one product or brand that you couldn't yank it and keep doing business as usual the next day.
Yeah,
Right. Have you
absolutely.
moved away from some toys as a result of this?
I have, and I'm going to be really careful as to what I buy. And I like the 12 and over rule. So it's just something to keep in mind as we approach next year, end of the year.
Yeah.
I
Going
won't
into
probably
Christmas.
buy a lot of the
Yeah.
same things.
And always take a look at eBay too. I mean, that's a great tip. One of the
Okay.
things I love doing with our products when we put them out there on eBay is you can set a price, set it for indefinite listing time, and the price slowly drops over time until it sells. And one of these, and
Yeah.
then I'm sitting here and on my phone, I'll get an alert like, boom, something else sold, and the team will ship it out the next day. Maybe we made a few dollars, maybe we broke even, maybe we lost a little bit. But on none of these products did we have 500 sitting in the warehouse and we're going, oh no, what are we going to do? Amazon just told us we can't sell this anymore. The most we have of anything is at any given time is maybe 30, 40 units of anything. That includes our warehouse, in transit to Amazon, or sitting on the shelf. Add all that together, we never have more than 20 or 30 of anything. So we never have this like, wow, we just got that huge rug yanked out from underneath us. No, we're an inch deep and a mile wide. It's a beautiful model. So I love that you can kind of process this from a logical, rational, like, yeah, maybe I just won't sell those items anymore. That's fine. That's one of the beauties of the replen model.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where have you found your best replens? Give me a few examples of ones you're most excited about.
Yeah. So let's see. I like low priced bundles. So if I'm looking for a specific product, I might take a photo of it while I'm in the store. It might be like a sandwich container, and that comes with a little snack container, and that comes with a little drink, kind of whatever it is, juice box. And those three things go together, and the return on it's 80+%. Those things are great because I can buy them over and over and over. So there's been a couple things there was one, it was a food storage thing that I'd purchased. It was over $6 per item. And I could tell that this store where I was buying it was probably not going to carry it any longer because the price started dropping a little bit. But it got down to under $2. And I went to every single store in the area that I could find and bought as many as I possibly could because that thing sells for like $20 a piece.
Right.
And so I just sent in the last tranche of that, but I mean, probably 130 at a time is what I was sending in because my restock report was saying I needed that or more because it was selling so many.
Oh, that's great. So you kind of cleaned out on the last of it, and you'll run into those opportunities as you kind of know. That's one of the benefits of keeping your toe dipped in the water of shopping, which I do. I do a considerable amount still for our replen business, just because you start to recognize the opportunity, and I can say, hey, this brand, keep an eye on this brand, and because I know I'm in the stores, I'm talking to store managers. I enjoy that part of the business, and you do see those opportunities. I've got 2 or 3 golden nuggets right now. Like if I would send someone driving all over the state if they could go collect certain items, right? Because they're just on fire. But you know what those are, and the thrill of the hunt almost, right? So that's great.
That's right.
That you're pretty deep into it, but you're confident. How many units a month is that product selling? Just give you an estimate.
Over 100.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Which means 200 or 300 units a month easily. Right.
Yeah.
So and if you're one of the few sellers, you're going to burn through those at a night. And probably as they start to vanish, the price is just going to climb too.
It's true. But then I'm wondering, so what replens do I need to replace this? Because it's kind of the elephant that's passing through the snake right now, or the pig, I suppose, in the metaphor. And this is going to come to an end. And I have another one like that, where I could tell it was a seasonal item, but it's something that people would want year round. It's a tea, and the place that was carrying it, they're not going to carry it again until next year, fall or winter. And so they discounted the price a little bit, and I bought as many as I possibly could. And I've called around at all the other stores, and nobody else has it. So I have the last of the stock.
I got you.
But then that's going to be another one that's going to run out, and I need to find something else to fill that void.
Yeah. And one of the things, if I was coaching you on your business is like, that's great. Have fun with those, enjoy them, but don't build your business around it. Those are kind of the icing on the cake. The cake is the replens, the boring stuff that's going to sell more in January than it does in December. That's the stuff that you want to get excited about. the products that people buy year round, just boring old stuff. That's
Right.
where the real money is. And I love that you mentioned the bundles. We're doing some super creative stuff with bundles right now. We've got our new bundle content that's coming very soon to the Proven Amazon course, and an opportunity to get it with Lisa and Jenny to get into their workshop. I'll stick a link to that in the show notes. I better make myself a note. But we're going to be doing something that, to my knowledge, no one else in the Amazon world is doing about bundles, where you can actually lock it down to where even if it's very common items in the bundle, no one can copy you, basically. Talk about getting your brand registered for generic name brand bundles. Pretty cool stuff.
Wow.
We're doing it successfully right now. And we've got Amazon's seal of approval on the whole process. They actually love it. They're helping us out with it. So pretty exciting stuff that's coming. So if you're into bundling at all, man, we've got some great stuff coming. Pay attention to that. Stay on our Facebook group to get those updates too. I'd say within the next couple months or so, we're mid-February right now, you're going to see some pretty exciting announcements along those lines. But cool stuff. Well, you've dropped some great knowledge on us today. This was a really cool episode. I appreciate all those little nuggets of wisdom, and you've got a compelling story. Any plans to go full-time anytime in the near future?
Yeah, that's something I hope to do this year. As the numbers allow, it looks like we're getting pretty close to that point. I actually have a full year worth of expenses in the bank to prepare for that. And so it's just what we needed for our comfort level to step off and do that. But yeah, should be sometime, hopefully first half of this year.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's one more thing I wanted to mention,
please
though,
do.
if it's
I don't
all right.
want to cut you off. Yeah, please share.
Just being around all these business owners, I come across really great ideas. And one thing I've heard from a lot of people who have a replan type of business is that this isn't something I could really sell. And I have a way that I think that could happen. It's through an employee stock ownership plan. I've done some deals with different business owners who have sold their business to their employees. And there's a really great interview out. If you would like, I can send you the link for it. But it talks about a gentleman who had a transportation company in Northern California. And after it hit about $3 to $5 million a year in revenues, he decided to sell it to his management team and using the future profits of the business.
Sure.
And he sold, and I think just retained like 1% and then a spot on the board. But he was able to cash out essentially. And all these guys now who were working for him were now working with him. And he could step away and the business kept on growing because they all took ownership because they had ownership. And really, I think ownership is the big thing that drives wealth, whether it's in your house or any type of real estate or a business.
For sure.
If we can figure out how to get people who maybe have a high school diploma, but they're working with us, they're solid, and they want to be invested, let's figure out a way for them to be invested and be able to have an exit strategy for ourselves where we can, free us up for some more stuff, maybe some more private label or exclusivity, some consulting, but you actually have the engine that continues to drive, and you could even stay on as an employee of this business that you sold or an advisor or consultant.
That makes so much sense. And for those who maybe didn't follow Joel, I completely followed what you just said. But one of the challenges people sometimes have with let's say the replens model or the finding random widgets to sell online model, it's like, hey, you're not building an asset. You've got a job that pays decent hours, pays decent money for return for the time you put in, but it's not a sellable asset. Well, what Joel's just laid out is, it is. If you've got a good team and they can run it while you take, I guess maybe the test would be, are you able to take a 2 or 3 week vacation and not touch the business and your team kind of runs things and it kind of grows even? Well, you've got an asset. You could sell it to the team. And not that they have to pony up money, I'm guessing, right? It's based on, like you said, the future profits that the business generates. You're going to get a percent of those and maintain some leadership role on the business, but you turn it over to them. And the thing I like about that is I'm kind of envisioning the meetings you could have with your team leading up to that, saying, hey guys, I'm not going to do this forever. I want you guys to be rewarded for the hard work you've put in. Do you guys want to own a piece of this? Right. And you kind of get their brains thinking, like, now that they have ownership, they're going to be a little more creative. Maybe they're going to work a little harder. Maybe they're going to feel like they're vested. It's probably the magic business word,
Exactly.
right? That gets the wheels turning. So I love it. Yeah, send me that information. Maybe we'll revisit this. But I love that, planting that thought in some folks' heads today. Like, yeah, you are building an asset. This can be transferred, not necessarily to a brand new owner who comes in and says, "Now what's a replan?" But maybe it's to your team, right?
Yes.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, all kinds of little fun, random directions we can go when we're talking about these businesses, man. That was an awesome one. That's actually never come up before that I can recall. So thanks for bringing that one up. I love it.
You're welcome.
But I've got to wrap this episode up, even though I'm sure we could do this for a while longer. I'm going to get in trouble with
Sure.
with my boss, my wife. Got some plans tonight, so this has been a great time, Joel. Thank you for hanging out with us, buddy, and good luck on your transition as it comes. I'd love to have you back after you've settled into your new routine, going full time with your online business. But let me just talk for a minute to all the business building warriors out there who are listening. Thank you for hanging out with Joel and I today. And you're in our prayers. We are here for you. We're in your corner, and we want you to succeed. That's why we do what we do. There's 63,000 of us hanging out every day in a Facebook group, supporting each other, encouraging each other, helping solve each other's challenges and move each other forward. And Joel's just another great example of a student who jumped in, got the proven Amazon course, went through our coaching, has built something special for his family and for his future. And we're super honored to get to work with great guys like Joel, and you as well, listener. Thank you for the role you play in this community. So keep spreading the word. Send your friends to silentjim.com. That's where they can hear all the episodes of this show. If you're watching on YouTube, one little reminder, most of our shows aren't on YouTube. Get over to Silent Jim and hear all the audio versions as well. So Joel, thanks for hanging out, buddy.
Thank you, Jim. It's been
It was a
great.
pleasure. And to all the listeners, we'll be back soon with another great episode. We'll talk to you then.